Hi students, I am Senthil Kumaran, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, Erode Sengundar Engineering College, Autonomous. Okay, today we are going to discuss about the Engineering Chemistry, Unit 5, Fuels and Combustion, Part 1. What is the meaning of fuel? Yes, fuel is the combustible substance. So, we will discuss the detailed classification of the fuel. Okay. So this is the classification of summarized as follows. So the mainly fuels can be classified into two types. One is the primary fuel and another one is the secondary fuel. Primary fuels are natural fuels, but the secondary fuels were derived from the primary fuel. So it is otherwise called as the artificial fuel or man-made fuel or synthetic fuel. Okay, primary fuels further classified into three types. One is the solid fuels, liquid fuels and the gaseous fuels. So here I given the example for all the fuels. In solid fuels, you know very well about the wood, coal, like this substance. And liquid fuels, best example, petroleum oil. Otherwise called as the crude oil. So crude oil also the one of the natural fuel, liquid fuel. Okay. Then gaseous fuel, example, natural gas. So you know the methane gas. Okay, that is the natural gaseous fuel. Then the examples for the secondary or artificial fuels. In solid fuels, coke, charcoal are the best examples. So coke, which can be derived from the coal. In the liquid fuel, best examples, diesel, kerosene, white petrol. So these are all the some of the artificial or synthetic liquid fuels. Then gaseous fuel, that means synthetic gaseous fuel, example, coal gas or flue gas, water gas, producer gas, LPG, liquid petroleum gas, CNG, compressed natural gas. So these are all the some of the examples of artificial, secondary or synthetic gaseous fuels. So with this classification, we will discuss first solid fuels. So what are the various topics we will discuss in the solid fuels? Introduction about the solid fuels, then classification of the fuels. Solid fuels, best example is the coal. Then how can we analyze the coal by proximate and the ultimate analysis method. Then manufacture of metallurgical coke by Otto Hoffmann byproduct oven method. Okay. Introduction about the fuel. So fuel is the combustible substance which releases large amount of the heat. So here carbon as the main constituents. So which on burning gives large amount of heat energy with the help of oxygen. During this process of combustion of a fuel, the atoms of carbon, hydrogen, etc. combine with oxygen to form large amount of heat energy. So here given the equation, carbon react with oxygen to form the carbon dioxide plus heat energy, 94 kilocalories amount of heat energy which can be released. Suppose 2 moles of hydrogen react with the oxygen to form the 2 moles of the water molecule and also releases the heat energy, 68.5 kilocalories of heat energy which can be released. So the main source of fuel is the coal and the crude petroleum oil. These are stored fuels available in earth crust and are generally called fossil fuels. Fossil fuels means the millions of years before the dead animals and dead plants are decomposed in the earth component to form the solid fuel like coal, and in a high pressure and temperature which can be converted into the crude oil. Then we will apply the high pressure and temperature, they are converted into the gaseous fuels. So because they are formed from fossil remains of plants and animals. Okay. Coal. What is coal? Coal is an important primary solid fuel, that is the natural fuel that has been formed as a result of alteration of vegetable matter and under some favorable condition. So I already told, millions of years before the dead animals and the plants are converted into the solid fuel like a natural coal sample at a particular pressure and temperature conditions. Okay. Then what is coalification or metamorphism? The process of conversion of vegetable matter to anthracite, that means coal, is called as the metamorphism or a coalification. The conversion of vegetable matter into the coal, that is called as the coalification or a metamorphism. What are the various types of the coal or classification of the coal? Coal can be classified into various types based on the carbon content in the constituent. So here I given the 5 types of the coal. One is the wood, second is peat, third one is the lignite, and fourth one is the bituminous coal, and the last one is the anthracite. So here anthracite is the very purest form. Here 100% of the carbon contents are present. Comparing to the wood, peat, lignite and bituminous coal, anthracite is the very purest form. So in bituminous coal, some of the impurities having, so 90% of the carbon content here, remaining 10% of the bituminous coal having impurities. In lignite 80% of the carbon content, remaining 20% impurities are present. Peat, same thing like as the 70% of the carbon are available in the peat, remaining 30% are impurities. But in wood, 50% of the carbons are available, remaining 50% are the impurities. So based on the carbon content in the coal can be classified into various types. First is the wood, then peat, lignite, bituminous coal and anthracite. Once again I repeat, anthracite is the very purest form because they have highly carbon content. Okay. So the progressive transformation of wood to anthracite results in, from wood to anthracite, wood having larger amount of the moisture, but in the anthracite is lower amount of the moisture, so that it is decrease in moisture content from wood to peat. The same thing like from wood to peat, decrease in volatile content, and also decrease in hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and sulfur content from wood to anthracite. But in the wood to anthracite, increase in the carbon content. So whenever the carbon content increases, that hardness also increases, and also it increases the calorific value. What is calorific value? Calorific value is the amount of heat liberated from the fuel even at burning. So during the burning process, how much amount of heat energy which will produce the fuel, that is called calorific value. So comparing to the wood and anthracite having the higher in the hardness because of carbon content which will increases. Okay. Then how can we analyze the different constituents present in the coal sample? So that is the two process. One is the proximate analysis, another one is the ultimate analysis. So in proximate analysis, so we have to determine the following constituents. One is the moisture content, second one is the volatile matter, then ash content, then last one is the fixed carbon. How can we calculate the different constituents? We will discuss one by one. First, moisture content. So about 1 gram of powdered air dried coal sample is taken in a crucible. Crucible means it is the cup like structure made in the ping-pong like structure, so which withstand very high temperature, nearly 4000 to 500 degrees Celsius can be withstand in the crucible. So in this special type of crucible we have to taken, so in that crucible we have to taken 1 gram of the powdered air dried coal sample, and it is heated in the electrical hot air oven from 100 to 105 degrees Celsius for 1 hour. Once again I repeat, 1 gram of powdered coal sample is taken in the crucible and it put into the electric hot air oven. The temperature range is 100 to 105 degrees Celsius for 1 hour. Suppose if the coal sample containing any moisture content which is easily removed in the range of 100 to 105 degrees Celsius, because the water boiling point is the 100 degrees Celsius, so that moisture means water content. Okay, so in this temperature the moisture content which will easily evolved from the coal sample. So how can we calculate the percentage of moisture in the coal sample equal to loss in weight of the coal sample divided by weight of air dried coal sample. So initial weight of the coal sample into 100, we will get the percentage of moisture content in the coal sample. So using this formula we can easily find out the how much of moisture content in the coal sample. Okay, then go to the next constituent, volatile matter. So after analysis the moisture content in the crucible with residual coal sample is covered with a lid. Lid means cap, and it is heated to 950 degrees Celsius, that means plus or minus 20 degrees Celsius. So only we have to take heat up to 7 minutes in the muffle furnace. Muffle furnace means long necked furnace. So in that furnace we have to taken as the coal sample, that means after moisture content coal sample is taken into the crucible with the lid. So we have heated up to 950 degree Celsius. If there is any volatile matter content in the coal sample, so that is lost or removed. So the loss in weight of the coal sample is right in the numerical. The denominator we have to write as the weight of air dried coal sample, that is moisture free coal sample weight into 100. So we will get the percentage of volatile matter in coal sample. Once again I repeat the formula. Percentage of volatile matter in the coal can be calculated loss in weight of the coal sample divided by initial weight of the air dried coal into 100. Using this formula we find out the percentage of volatile matter. Now we can determine two constituents. One is the moisture content and another one is the volatile matter present in the coal sample. So we will analyze the next constituent in the coal sample, that is ash content. So after the analysis of volatile matter, the crucible with the residual coal sample is heated without lid. So in volatile matter we taken as the with lid, but here we have to remove the lid, that is without lid, at 700 degrees Celsius plus or minus 50 degree, that means 650 degrees Celsius to 750 degrees Celsius for half an hour in a muffled furnace. Suppose if the coal sample having any ash content, the ash will be formed in the crucible. So the loss in weight of the sample is found out. The percentage of ash content is calculated as. So how can we calculate the percentage of ash content in the coal sample? The weight of ash formed. So in previous one, moisture content is evolved from the coal sample, and also volatile matter which also evolved. Volatile matter means easily removable substance, gaseous substance like helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon like substances are the volatile matter which easily evolved. But in the ash content there is no removal of the ash content. Here in the crucible the weight of ash is formed. So in the formation of the ash content weight is right in the above. Then in the below we have to write as the weight of air dried coal sample, so into 100, so you will get the percentage of ash content into the coal sample. Okay. Then last one is fixed carbon. So how can we calculate the fixed carbon? So already we determined the three constituents. One is the moisture content, then volatile matter and ash content. So we have to add all these three, moisture content plus volatile matter plus ash content. So we have to subtract it from 100. We will get the percentage of fixed carbon in the coal sample. Okay. Okay. Next, significance or importance of the proximate analysis. So if the coal sample having moisture content, volatile matter and ash content of the fixed carbon, what are the various problems will occur suppose if the coal sample containing the moisture, volatile matter and the ash content? So we will discuss one by one. First, moisture content are available in the coal sample. So high the percentage of moisture is undesirable because it reduces the calorific value. So already told what is meaning of calorific value. Calorific value means amount of heat liberated from the fuel. Suppose if the coal sample having the higher the moisture content, which reduces the calorific value. Okay. Then moisture in coal consumes more heat in the form of latent heat of evaporation, and hence more heat is to be supplied to the coal. So latent heat means how much amount of the heat already having in the coal sample. So the moisture is available in the coal sample, which reduces the calorific value and also the more amount of heat which will produce to the coal sample. So a good coal which does not having any moisture content. Suppose if the moisture content is increases in the transport cost also. Okay. So the very good coal sample does not containing the moisture content. Suppose if the coal sample having the moisture, it is undesirable. Okay. Then going to the next, volatile matter. The same thing like this, the volatile matter also, which reduces the calorific value. So if the percentage of the high percentage of the volatile matter content in the coal sample, it is also the undesirable because it reduces the calorific value. Large proportion of the fuel on heating will distill over as vapor, which escapes out unburnt. Then coal with a high percentage of volatile matter burns with a long flame with a high smoke. So if the coal sample containing the volatile matter, it produces the higher the volume of the smoke. Then the coal containing high percentage of the volatile matter do not coke well. That means it reduces the calorific value and also it reduces the hardness of the coal sample. So conversion of the coal to coke is undesirable. So a very good coal sample does not containing the volatile matter. Then ash content. Higher the percentage of the ash content is undesirable because it also reduces the calorific value of the coal. Ash causes a hindrance to heat flow as well as produces clinkers, which blocks the air supply through the fuel. So it occupies the more percentage of the coal. So it does not allow the oxygen to the coal sample, and also it reduces the heat content in the fuel. Ash content increases in the coal sample, which increases the transport cost, handling and storage cost. Then it involves additional cost in ash disposal. So ash disposal process is the extra process. So a very good coal sample does not containing the ash content also. Then last one is fixed carbon. Higher the percentage of fixed carbon is desirable because higher the percentage of fixed carbon is in a coal, greater it is the calorific value. Because carbon having the important compound and parent compound in the fuel. So carbon which react with oxygen to produces large amount of heat energy. So a very good fuel which containing the higher the percentage of the carbon. The percentage of fixed carbon helps in designing the furnaces and the shape of the firebox. So based on the percentage of carbon content in the fuel, we have to design the furnace. Furnace means to produce the heat energy, and also we have to pass that heat energy into the water. That water converted into the steam. Then steam is passed to the turbine which will produces the electricity. So you know very well how the steam can be converted into the electricity. So the ultimate aim of the carbon which produces the electricity in the furnaces. Okay. So these are all the various significances of the proximate analysis. Okay. Then we are going to the ultimate analysis. It involves the determination of the percentage of various elements. One is the carbon, then hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, ash content, oxygen content. We will discuss one by one. How can we calculate the carbon and the hydrogen content? Carbon react with the oxygen to produce the carbon dioxide. Same thing like as the hydrogen react with the half moles of the oxygen to produces the water content. So here how much of the carbon dioxide and how much of the water content is produced? So in the coal sample, how much of the carbon content in the thing? So that react with the oxygen to form the carbon dioxide. The same thing like is the how much amount of the hydrogen content in the coal sample, that much amount of the water also produced. Okay. Then after formation of the carbon dioxide, we have to pass the carbon dioxide into the KOH tube. KOH means potassium hydroxide tube. In that potassium hydroxide absorb the carbon dioxide and it will increases the KOH level in the tube. Once again I repeat, the formation of the carbon dioxide which will pass into the required volume of the KOH. Suppose we will taken as the KOH in one test tube. For example, 5 ml of the KOH is taken into the test tube. Now we have passed the carbon dioxide into the 5 ml of the KOH tube. So which will increases 5 to 7 ml. So how much of amount of the carbon dioxide which will produces 2 ml. So increase in level of the KOH tube amount formed in the carbon dioxide. Then how can we calculate the hydrogen? Hydrogen react with oxygen to form the water. How much amount of the water which will produce? We have to calculate by using calcium chloride. So calcium chloride is the very good absorbing agent of the water. Known amount of the or known volume of the calcium chloride is taken into the one particular tube. That means glass tube. Suppose 10 ml of the calcium chloride you have to taken into the test tube. Now we have to pass the water into the calcium chloride tube. Suppose after passing the water into the calcium chloride tube, now the calcium chloride tube is increases, volume increases from 10 to 15 ml. So how much amount of water which will produce? 15 minus 10, that is 5 ml of the water which will produced. So using this method we have to find out the volume of the carbon dioxide formed and the volume of the water is formed. How can we calculate the percentage of carbon and the percentage of hydrogen in this process? So percentage of carbon equal to increase in level of the KOH tube divided by weight of the coal sample into atomic weight of the carbon divided by molecular weight of the carbon dioxide into 100. Once again I repeat the formula for calculation of the percentage of carbon equal to increase in the volume of KOH tube divided by weight of the coal sample into 12 by 44. 12 means atomic weight of the carbon divided by 44. 44 means molecular weight of the carbon dioxide into 100. So using this formula we have to find out the easily percentage of carbon content. Okay. Then before that, hydrogen content. How can we find out the hydrogen content? Percentage of hydrogen equal to increase in volume of the calcium chloride tube divided by amount of the coal sample, that is initial weight of the coal sample, into molecular weight of the hydrogen, that is 2, divided by molecular weight of the water, 18, into 100. Once again I repeat how can we calculate the percentage of the hydrogen. Hydrogen equal to increase in level of the calcium chloride tube divided by initial weight of the coal sample into 2 by 18. 2 means molecular weight of the hydrogen divided by molecular weight of the water into 100. So using this formula we can easily find out the percentage of hydrogen. Okay. The nitrogen content. How can we calculate the nitrogen content? So it is the Gelder's method. Gelder's flask we have to use to calculate the nitrogen content, so that we have called as the Gelder's method. So the determination of nitrogen content is carried out by Gelder's method. A known amount of powdered coal sample is heated with concentrated H2SO4 in presence of catalyst like potassium sulfate in a long necked flask called Gelder's flask. So the nitrogen react with sulfuric acid and a small amount of the hydrogen to form the ammonium sulfate. The nitrogen in the coal sample converted into the ammonium sulfate. How much amount of the ammonium sulfate which will formed? So how much amount of nitrogen content present in the coal sample, that much amount of the ammonium sulfate which will produced. Okay. So after formation of the ammonium sulfate, we have converted it into the ammonia. How can we convert the ammonium sulfate into ammonia? The clear solution is then heated with the excess of sodium hydroxide, NaOH, which means sodium hydroxide, and the liberated ammonia is distilled over and absorbed in a known volume of standard N/10 HCl. That means the ammonium sulfate which react with the added NaOH which will produce the ammonia and sodium sulfate into water. In that ammonia react with the N/10 HCl to form the ammonium chloride. So how can we calculate the percentage of ammonia? That is the next slide. The volume of unused N/10 HCl is then determined by titrating it against standard N/10 NaOH. Thus the amount of acid neutralized by liberated ammonia from coal is determined. So the ammonia is titrated against the acid, that is N/10 HCl. So we have to take as the known volume of the HCl into the burette solution. So in conical flask we have to take as the formation of the ammonia. So by using the suitable indicator we have to titrate it against the HCl solution into the burette. How much amount of the unused HCl is present in the burette? Using this we have to find out the how much amount of the ammonia is formed into the reaction. Then calculation of the percentage of the nitrogen content, which is equal to unused volume of unused HCl divided by initial weight of the coal sample into atomic weight of the nitrogen, that is 14, into normality of the HCl into 100. So using this formula we have to find out the percentage of nitrogen content in the coal sample. Next, sulfur content. A known amount of coal sample is burned completely in a bomb calorimeter. So in sulfur content we have to use the specific instrument, that is the bomb calorimeter. Bomb calorimeter means it stands the very high temperature and it converted into the sulfur into the sulfate form. So during this process sulfur is converted into the sulfate which is extracted with the water. So known amount of coal sample is taken into the bomb calorimeter and supplied the required amount of the oxygen into the sulfur. Oxygen react with the sulfur to form the sulfate. How much amount of the sulfate which will formed? So the taken coal sample which containing how much amount of the sulfur, that much amount of the sulfate is formed into the bomb calorimeter. So the sulfate which will collected with the help of water. The extract is then treated with the barium chloride solution. So that sulfates are precipitate as barium sulfate. So sulfate ion react with the barium chloride to form the barium sulfate precipitate. It is the white precipitate. The precipitate is filtered, dried and weighed. So after the filtering in that barium sulfate precipitate which will dried and weighted. From this weight of barium sulfate obtained, the sulfur present in the coal sample is calculated as the follows. Same thing like percentage of carbon to percentage of hydrogen. So percentage of sulfur equal to weight of the barium sulfate divided by initial weight of the coal sample into atomic weight of the sulfur, that is 32, divided by molecular weight of the barium sulfate, that is 233 into 100. So percentage of sulfur equal to weight of barium sulfate divided by weight of coal sample into 32 divided by 233. 32 is the atomic weight of sulfur divided by 233 is the molecular weight of the barium sulfate into 100. So using this formula we have find out the percentage of sulfur content. Ash content. So using the proximate analysis we have to easily find out the ash content. Then oxygen content. The percentage of oxygen is calculated as follows. So we have to add all the elements like carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur and ash content in the coal sample. Then subtracted from 100 we will get the percentage of oxygen content in the coal sample. Significances or importance of the ultimate analysis. So carbon and hydrogen content in the coal sample is the desirable one, nitrogen content is the undesirable, sulfur content also the undesirable, oxygen content also the undesirable. So we will discuss one by one. Suppose if the coal sample having higher the percentage of the carbon and hydrogen, better is the quality of the coal, because the having higher it is the calorific value. So higher the percentage of the carbon which is helpful the classification of the coal sample, wood, peat, anthracite, lignite like this. The higher percentage of carbon in the coal reduces the size of combustion chamber is rakyot. Next, nitrogen content. Nitrogen, suppose coal sample having the nitrogen does not have any calorific value and in the presence of coal is undesirable. So good quality coal should have very little amount of the nitrogen content or without a nitrogen. So nitrogen which reduces or the absence of the coal sample is very good fuel. Next, sulfur content. So the sulfur increases the calorific value. The presence of coal is undesirable because the sulfur which react with the oxygen to form the sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, sulfate like these substances which will harmful and having corrosion effects on the equipments. So sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide easily react with the moisture content in the water sample which also produces the acid rain. So the acid rain is the very dangerous one, very harmful, very poisonous in the human beings and also the plants. So the coal containing sulfur is not suitable for the preparation of metallurgical coke and it affects the properties of the metal. So highly the sulfur content which will increases the corrosion effects also. So the very good fuel does not containing any sulfur content. Then oxygen content. Lower the percentage of the oxygen, higher it is the calorific value. As the oxygen content increases, the moisture holding capacity increases and the calorific value of the fuel is also reduced. So oxygen which occupies in the place of fuel, so it reduces the calorific value. So a very good fuel does not containing any percentage of the oxygen. Okay. Then carbonization. So when coal is heated strongly in the absence of air, it is converted into lustrous, dense, porous and coherent mass known as coke. So this process of converting coal into coke is the carbonization. So already you know very well about the coal is the primary fuel or natural fuel. Coke is the secondary fuel or man-made fuel. So the conversion of coal into coke is the carbonization. So with this topic, we will wind up the today's session. So thank you one and all.